a variety of normal types here. We have Lopunny, Drampa, and Kangaskhan. Kangaskhan thing is a bit of an interesting throwback to 2015. Kangaskhan definitely the dominant one in that metagame, but Lopunny, you know, it had a niche that allowed it to not only fulfill a similar role to Kangaskhan, but kind of offer advantage against it. That fighting typing really coming in handy. The speed a lot better. They have an interesting variety of support moves. Encore, like being a huge one.
Blacephalon and Greninja,
yeah, Blacephalon,
like, holy
Greninja, Drampa, there's no Trick Room option here. James is definitely using the more wild team where Shreyas is more contained. It's interesting always for me to see that dynamic of the sort of wild, unexpected versus the controlled and sort of trained.
Yeah, no, like for sure. And like I think having Greninja, like, you know, in previous formats where it was a really kind of big thing, and having it back now, like having that Protean ability is going to be so huge. So getting into round one, guys, going to be super pumped to see what they're going to bring. So on James' side, we have the Lopunny and the Zapdos coming out onto the field. And from Shreyas, we're going to be having, oh man, I cannot, the Kangaskhan and Bisharp.
You know, fairly even lead matchup. It's not entirely unexpected, especially in Game 1, for both players to lead their fake-out user. The ability on Kangaskhan, while probably mattering more in the past, as in the past 2015 specifically, Kangaskhan were more likely or more able to run Inner Focus, whereas in this metagame, they're kind of more forced into Scrappy because Gengar and Aegislash are just bigger threats than before, meaning that Lopunny's sort of fake-out pressure is just a bit better. Item variety on Bisharp and Zapdos is pretty big, vast. Bisharp, Life Orb, Assault Vest, Focus Sash, even Z-Move, while Zapdos, it could be a Berry, it could be Life Orb, Z-Move. Go for it.
Yeah, so Shreyas actually withdrawing his Kangaskhan, setting up the Lander is still going to be getting an Intimidate onto both that Zapdos and the Lopunny. So going to switch out, not going for any Mega, not going to take any sort of fake out move, and not going to be flinching. And from Lopunny, we're getting the Mega Evolution. So kind of cool to see because we did see the Mega Lopunny back in the Oceania. So really fun to see it getting some more use into this format. So the fake out going into the switched out Kangaskhan spot. So Lander's taking that really nicely. As we get the Tailwind from Zapdos, going to give a little bit of speed boost to James's side. As Bisharp uses Iron Head, connecting with the Lopunny, going to do some really good damage on there. Gets the critical hit. So in the red now for James.
You know, a bit unfortunate for the Lopunny, but just based on the general damage, it probably 2-hit KO anyway, and you still got your Tailwind up. The Intimidate, still annoying for Lopunny regardless of health. James has to make positioning plays either way, but he does have that speed control that can really start to build an offense against this.
Lopunny actually using fake tears, so going to be harshly lowering that special defense onto Landorus, so it's going to be taking special attack hits a lot less. As the hidden power from Zapdos connecting with the Landorus picks up that knockout super easy because of that that harsh special defense drop. So taking out that heavy hitter on the side as Bisharp uses knockoff, picks up the knockout onto Lopunny.
You know, the knockoff, just a safe KO. Lopunny already so low that even through a resisted hit, it would KO. And if James did make that positioning play, the incoming Pokemon will lose its item. So very safe play from, excellent play from both players. Good positioning. Trading the injured Lopunny for the Landorus is very good, but now Shreyas having that Kangaskhan in the back, his Mega being the only one left, pretty big, significant factor for the momentum of this game.
And the Kangaskhan does replace that fainted Landorus as we have the Greninja coming in for that Lopunny. So Greninja as a Pokemon though, kind of.
It's pretty interesting.
Yeah.
Greninja generally run Protean. Some do try to run the weird like Water EMZ torrent stuff, but for the most part, you're going to see Protean Greninja, which allows its ability to switch with the attack type it's using. Greninja has a vast array of different offensive moves: Low Kick, Gunk Shot, Ice Beam, Dark Pulse, Water moves. So he can pressure Bisharp, he can pressure Kangaskhan, he can pressure Landorus. It's going to be very interesting and important for Shreyas to see what Greninja can do in this game.
It makes it feel like even more of a guessing game because now you're guessing what type Greninja is going to be.
I mean, that's part of the scary presence of Greninja.
All right, and the Greninja protecting this turn, so it will be turning into a normal type as the Kangaskhan from Shreyas goes into that Mega Evolution, so we will be getting the Parental Bond. Zapdos thunderbolting into the Bisharp spot does really good damage on there, almost picks up the knockout as the Kangaskhan double edges into the Zapdos slot, actually. So that double hit because Parental Bond
is that
picks
another
up the knockout. It wasn't a critical hit.
Wow.
Oof. So.
I mean,
Yeah, sorry, an Iron Head going to
Yeah, good turn for Shreyas. Like, Kangaskhan picking that up is honestly pretty surprising and definitely indicating that James Zapdos is trained on the offensive side. But, you know, the Thunderbolt on, ooh, you know, a Blacephalon, the shiny is just fantastic looking in my opinion. The Thunderbolt on Bisharp, very safe play. Kangaskhan usually injuring itself in the process. By attacking Bisharp, you enable a situation in which Focus Sash does not win the game for Shreyas. It's very just safe to do. We didn't see any recoil damage. Assault Vest isn't that common, and nor is Z, so it's pretty safe to assume Focus Sash.
Shreyas protecting his Kangaskhan turn by switching it out into the Tapu Fini slot. So Misty Terrain going to be hitting the field. No status moves on any Pokemon touching the ground. I'm actually super pumped that James brought like that Greninja Blacephalon and Lopunny because oh my gosh, that's super exciting. As, oh no! So we've so the Bisharp picking up the knock on Blacephalon. Not going to see anything from it this turn as Greninja goes for the low kick onto the Bisharp, switching it into that. Oh sorry, onto the Tapu Fini. Oh, because of the Kangaskhan.
The Kang switching, yeah.
Oh yikes. So
I mean, good switch on Shreyas. Tapu Fini, very safe. Greninja, unless through prediction, probably not going to be hitting that for large amounts of damage. Able to pick up that KO on Blacephalon pretty much for free. There was nothing he could do about the Sucker Punch. At this point, James needs to be thinking about adjustments. Blacephalon, just in my opinion, maybe if you want to bring it again, save it for an odd Game 3 scenario. You need to be more proactive against Bisharp. It was there for the entire game and just able to apply an offensive presence the entire time. Sucker Punch doing just absolutely making James' control of speed irrelevant. No matter how fast that Blacephalon is, Tailwind, even certain items, it doesn't matter. Sucker Punch is an easy KO.
Oh, and I also think that Shreyas did a really good job of just kind of switching out of protecting Pokemon
Yeah.
he needed to. Like that Kangaskhan, you know, we saw it turn 1, switched out, protected it, and even though that James got that knockout on the Landers, it didn't matter in the long run. Shreyas did such a good job making sure that his Mega and Pokemon he needed to win the game were out there. And like you said, James, I think, definitely needs to kind of understand that Bisharp is a little bit more of a threat than it was previously.
Yeah.
Especially that Sucker Punch.
Yeah, the Sucker Punch just absolutely terrifying, really. I'm almost surprised he didn't try to bring Tapu Lele to try and avoid that Psychic Terrain, enabling Blacephalon to not be hit by those Sucker Punches. Yeah, even though at that point you're going to play a sort of terrain war between Lele and Feedy and trying to see who can position that just a bit better. You're really seeing the Shreyas team, the sort of trained, what's a good word? It's it's a team that is used to dealing with the sort of wild offenses. It has the tools to contain weird offense very well. Yeah. Like Drampa without Trick Room, it's not something really to worry about. Blacephalon, the combination of Bisharp Fini makes it a lot less scary. Lopunny, one of the big problems with Lopunny always, especially when compared to Kangaskhan, is that it's just not that bulky. You saw Iron Head do a ton of damage, even though it was a crit, still a ton of damage in the first turn of the last game, which really just set the tone, I think, for the entire way the match played out. James already going in. I really hope just to see James able to like turn this around a little bit, bring us an entertaining Game 3.
Yeah. Well, and I think you're right. Like that Lele would have been really nice, especially now that he knows that Bisharp has Sucker Punch. It's a great way to like circumnavigate it and just kind of make sure that his Blacephalon, which obviously you want that to be your damage dealer when you have it on that field, it doesn't get knocked out as soon as it's out there. So Lopunny and Zapdos going to be getting the same lead from James. I'm actually really expecting to see a little bit more work from Lopunny because that Fake Tears was really cool to see. And we have a little bit of a lead change from Shreyas, so we will be getting the Landorus and Kangaskhan instead. So Intimidate just going to be hitting into both Lopunny and Zapdos, going to be knocking him down one attack stage. So a little bit of adjustment from Shreyas here.
I mean, and I like the adjustment from Shreyas. I think it's pretty smart. By leading Landorus, you just weaken Lopunny from the start even more. If Lopunny is weak, not only is it weak, but it's frail at the same time. The speed is the only thing that it really offers. And even though we saw that Fake Tears from pretty cool tech that Lopunny don't generally run, with the Kangaskhan fake out pressure and the Landorus just presence, it's really hard to do things, especially considering that Bisharp in the back enables him to just come in and Sucker Punch things later.
Yeah. And so Lopunny Mega evolving onto this turn. We might see a different move from it as the Kangaskhan on Shreyas' side also Mega evolves. So both of them just going straight into it. We didn't have Shreyas Mega evolve turn 1, so this is a little bit of an adjustment from him as well. And the Lopunny faking out this time into the Kangaskhan slot. No switches. And Landorus super powering into the Lopunny. And it's definitely going to be enough to pick up like that knockout on here as Landorus gets the drop on his attack and its defense, leaving Zapdos, I think, to use Tailwind again this turn, most likely. Yep, there we go.
Yep, Tailwind's coming out. Good turn for Shreyas. He took the fake out, no issue, because even if it worked the other way and he faked out Landorus, now you just get your own fake out, and probably on the Zapdos slot, I imagine, just trying to create an even turn where the next turn benefits you more because your position is just inherently better. We do see this sort of weakness again in Lopunny, just the frail paper defenses not enabling it to stick around long enough. Kangaskhan has the bulk to take those superpowers. We do see Greninja come out, something that can pressure, especially in Tailwind. I think it's really on the combined offenses of Greninja and Zapdos here to try and mount the comeback. We don't know the item on Zapdos. Could be Z-Move. Big Z-Move and the ever-common Ice Beam on Landorus has the potential to create just that kind of shift that James would need.
And like we didn't see any Z moves actually last game at all, so neither player actually really knows who has a Z move. And we do know that Greninja had the Protean to hit the Kangaskhan for that low kick. And I think, like, just going back really fast to that opening, just having the option, I think, to try to support really flying Pokemon requires you to play in a way that it supports it better.
Yeah, it does. Like, it's a higher risk Pokemon than Kangaskhan, essentially.
So Tapu Fini coming in for that Landorus, going to be able to take any sort of hidden power from that Zapdos really nicely as Misty Terrain comes out onto the field here. And Greninja using low kick, changing itself into the fighting type, so it will be getting that stab bonus into the Kangaskhan slot. Is enough to bring up the knockout on there. So as Zapdos is going to, showing that Life Orb on there. And
excellent.
So here we go. Good call, actually, from James. Going to be Z-moving into that Tapu Fini. Oh my gosh.
That is just the kind of read you need to take game 2. It's going to be very difficult for Shreyas to come back, considering the Tailwind is up. Even if Bisharp is in the back, Sucker Punch against Zapdos and the currently fighting type Greninja isn't enough, at least on that first turn. You also force him into a situation where he can't really pivot around, which is kind of what the Kangaskhan teams need to really contain offenses like this. Those big, hard prediction turns are what these kind of wild offenses need to take games, and James just did that perfectly.
Yeah, that was, I'm like super proud of James. Like, that was super cool to see. Like, just especially because we're just talking about this.
Yeah, exactly.
Not showing up as we get the Bisharp and the Landorus onto the field. Shreyas' last 2 Pokemon. And this Greninja still as a fighting type, does have the Life Orb that we saw because it's been losing that HP. But, oh my gosh, those knockouts.
I mean, at this point, because we know that Landorus generally just don't run Protect. And even if it is Assault Vest, they generally can't take Ice Beam from Greninja either. So Landorus should drop this turn, and it forces Bisharp into a sort of, while there will be damage thrown out, 3 versus 1 situation. At this point, Shreyas should focus on the future adjustment because it's already looking kind of rough.
All right, so the Ice Beam into Landorus is going to be picking up the knockout on here. That Landorus is not going to take that comfortably at all. So bye to Landorus, and that Bisharp, just against the rest of James's team as the Thunderbolt connects with it, does get it into the red once more. The Iron Head also connecting, notorious for missing right when it needs to, does knock out the Greninja. So it's super cool to me, I think, just the adjustments that James made.
I mean, at least for Shreyas, he's able to see the 4th Pokemon that James brought. Yeah. That's sort of important things to just try and see if there's a pattern in team building decisions or team bringing. Yeah, Tapu Lele, perfect to bring. Just prevents a lot of Bisharp's offense with the Sucker Punch pressure, which is really what enabled a lot of Shreyas' positioning in the first game. As far as Shreyas goes, in terms of adjustments, I think that he actually brought the correct Pokemon. It was just James made very good reads. And so I would like to see just changes in terms of decision-making as really opposed to Pokemon bringing.
And I think on this side, too, so, game 1, James kind of didn't take that Bisharp as seriously as he should have. And I think on this side, that Zapdos needs to be stopped a little bit, especially now that, you have that Gigavolt Havoc and that you have the Tailwind. As Moonblast connecting to the Bisharp spot picks up this knockout. And we will be going to a game 3. Crossing our fingers for that Blacephalon that it probably will.
I mean, it's possible. I mean, because Sucker Punch dealt with it so easily in the first game, it's easy for Shreyas to think, oh, why would he bring that, right? So if he wants to switch to a mode that maybe utilizes Kartana a little more, Blacephalon could catch him there. But I think Bisharp's role has done well enough that that's pretty risky for James to do. I don't really expect Blacephalon to make an appearance, though I will say it has the potential to be effective.
Well, and that Bisharp has put in so much work, it's gotten a lot of damage onto the other Pokemon.
Yeah.
Like, especially, you know, that Greninja, once it switches its typing a little bit, you have to really figure out how to maneuver against, how to protect that Greninja in a way that, like, it'll stay around for a couple more things, because it has so many options, like you've mentioned before. And that Lopunny, I think, might be something that James could potentially drop, because it is a Pokemon that, like you've mentioned, is really frail. Like, it gets hit and it's down for the count. And once more for you guys on your left side for James' team, we have the Zapdos, Tapu Lele, Lopunny, Drampa, Blacephalon, and Greninja. And on Shreyas' side, on the right side, you have Bisharp, Kartana, Tapu Fini, Kangaskhan, Zapdos, and Landers there in form.
I want to talk about the last turn of game 2 just a little bit. It was interesting to note that you didn't see Life Orb recoil from Tapu Lele, but you also saw the Z move from Zapdos. So you're either a sort of passive health item, you know, a berry, or a choice item. It could be, I believe it went before the Zapdos. Zapdos are naturally faster than Tapu Lele. It's possible to be Choice Scarf, maybe even Choice Specs, just depending on training. Also worth noting that the Bisharp Sucker Punch did not 2-hit KO. It could be a damage roll, but it didn't do half damage to Zapdos. So this not only indicates just your relative bulk of Zapdos and the power of Bisharp, but the Kangaskhan is probably fully invested in attack to the point of being a nature that boosts attack, because it was able to remove Zapdos in a single hit.
So, yeah. And, like, Kangaskhan is one of those Pokemon who in a way is just like, in comparison, I guess, to like Snorlax, where it's semi-bulky, but it is scary with its attack, and you don't actually really need the setup like Snorlax sometimes needs. And I think having it back in this format, you know, a lot of people, I think before this format even began, were talking about how it might not be as useful because that Tapu Lele Psychic trade, but when you have the right support for Kangaskhan and you have all these things like accessible to it, it is a Pokemon that can be on here. All right, so we have the Lopunny and the Zapdos lead coming once more from James, as we have the Bisharp Kangaskhan. So kind of reminiscent of Game 1.
Yeah, you know, Trey's just trying to take it back to how the first game went. Very comfortable in that position, maybe thinking that Bisharp has more to offer in the leading position compared to Landorus, especially since he was kind of forced to switch it earlier on. Making the most out of Lopunny's fake out is very important, because you absolutely need you need all the momentum control that you can get.
Yeah, and I think the other big thing is maybe understanding, like, you know, the switch in for the Landers too, because I want to see other moves from Lopunny, or I want to see what it actually bringing, because I appreciate the special defense drop from Fake Tears. I think that's actually really cool to bring, especially since I think that one of the only other Pokemon you'll see it on is Whimsicott, which is, you know, it's meant to support its partners, whereas Lopunny is meant to really be an offensive Pokemon.
Yeah, well, that makes it interesting in that Lopunny becomes a bit more nuanced. It takes on more of a mixed role. Even if you're intimidated, even if you feel that your coverage isn't the best, in certain situations you have that fake tier option that really supplements the rest of the team. I mean, you have Blacephalon, Zapdos, Tapu Lele. That's a lot of very strong, hard-hitting special attackers that can really take advantage of that.
And I think, too, like what you've mentioned is that Lopunny's fake-out pressure. I think going into the Kangaskhan slot might be his best option, because, you know, if you're James, you notice that Kangaskhan double edge knocked out your Zapdos. And if you want that speed control on your side, you want that Zapdos around that and being like, oh, I could have survived that normally, but this happened now. And like coupled with the fact that it's not in here where we have, you know, weather mode, but like adding onto like chip damage from weather and then the life orb damage makes playing life orb, I think, high risk at times.
Oh, definitely. That's why you generally see it on Pokemon that are already frail, sort of like Greninja. Greninja's not really known for taking a lot of hits. I'm sure it could run the Focus Sash, but then you're going to start missing out on these vital KOs that Greninja generally offers.
Yeah. Like, per se, just being a really cool ability, just giving you the stab bonus for every move that you
Oh, it's an excellent ability.
And, you know, it makes sense why it was so popular back in its heyday, and to kind of see it get a little bit of usage, because this is not the first Greninja I think that anybody has like seen on that, and it's been really fascinating to see it get some usage.
Yeah.
But what else do we have?
I mean, it's sort of a reemergence. Greninja won regionals in 2015. Alberto Lara won the Salt Lake City regional tournament in 2015 with Greninja. It's obviously Pokemon that has enough proficiency to stick around competitively.
I'm actually just going to go out on a limb here and just kind of assume that Shreyas brought the same 4 Pokemon.
Oh, absolutely.
There was no reason really for him to change anything on here. So we have the Tapu Fini, and we have Tapu Fini on Shreyas' side, and Tapu Lele and Greninja on James' side. As this Tapu Lele faints, we are at okay. So this Tapu Fini is the last Pokemon on the field as Greninja's partner Pokemon.
I mean, at that point.
Yeah.
It should be a victory for James, right? I mean, let's assume all the possible partners. We just saw Lele get KO'd. We saw Lopunny earlier. We saw Zapdos. Zapdos being KO'd. That means Lopunny. You get the fake out and the free attack. Even if you don't have Gunk Shot, fake out, attack. It forces him to protect or take it. Then you have return attack the next turn, unless Barry hasn't been activated yet, which is possible. It should be game for James.
Well, and I think like most Greninja that people have been running into are running Gunk Shot, because why wouldn't you bring poison
exactly.
move and get the stab bonus and the life orb
I mean, the
bonus
presence of the Tapus in this format is just so insanely large and powerful that you need those poison coverage moves now.
Like Poison Z? No, all right. I did run a Poison Z guard trap at one point.
Oh, well, that's a little different.
So that did happen. And we actually have we do have the win from James. So round 1 does go to James Eakes, so good job on him. But really,
I mean, yeah, congratulations, James. You know, he played well. He was able to use this sort of wild offensive team in a successful way against those teams that are sort of used to playing against these wild offensive teams. You know, the Greninja offensive pressure, very good. That game 2 big read with the low kick Electricium Z was so strong.
That was so amazing to like watch on there. And I don't think we ever actually saw a Z move from Shreyas' side. And that, to me, is kind of like a crazy deal. Like,
on that, it was probably on the Pokemon he didn't bring, either Kartana or Zapdos. Just Pokemon he didn't feel comfortable bringing, I suppose. Zapdos, potentially pretty cool, just the Tailwind counter. Essentially.
Like Zapdos just has so many options to it, and I think that's what makes this game so interesting too. Is that every single Pokemon you have has like 5 different ways it could run, and you're just like, which one is it this time? So we will be trying to figure out what is happening on our stream right now. We will be back here, you guys, for a round 2. So just kick back, grab some breakfast. I think I don't actually know what time it is.
Early.
It's early. So once again, I am Regina Angley. This is Chemo. I don't know if you guys can see him. This is Chemo Nishimura.
I don't know if I can see me.
So we'll see you guys in a little while for round 2. Thank you.